when I got this car, the original battery was still in the clock. You can see the little guy's hand there holding it, renewing electric battery, and it had leaked, and I had sent the clock off and I had it rebuilt, and I'll show you more about that here soon. I'm going to just shoot this video in just any kind of order it comes out because it's going to be too long and complicated, but I want to tell the story. I think I should. So one guy rebuilt it and it ran for a year or two, and I disconnect the battery every time and then it stopped. And then I got in good with this other guy that rebuilt, not Nissinger. Boy, those guys, you do what you want to with them. But anyway, I found another guy that rebuilt the clock in a different way, so it was a better internals, much more modern, and that really helped. But just look at it, back in the 60s, they had batteries running the clocks. This was the key to the whole stumbling at 3,000 RPMs here. Tiny little passage. We're in the engine section. We're just on a little old page here, page 90, on this right here, the Robert Bentley book. Camshafts are extremely interesting, and I'll show you the tool that you got to have to do this. More or less, the camshafts gears can be, see all those little teeth in there? Believe me, they're there. You can rotate the camshaft gear to any of the 360 degrees. Most camshaft gears, as you know, are fixed, or they have that adjuster on modern ones, but you know what I mean. You take the camshaft out. You you take this out and you can move this gear around. Now you'll also see some other stuff here. Now these camshafts, I'll show you the old head too. I'll make a note of that. And these camshaft actually has bearings. Very interesting. And I changed all those and all that stuff. So when I got this car, and this is the most important diagram that I have concerning the entire car. I didn't know this, and I've explained this to several people. Now I can just tell them to come look back at this thing. Now the interesting thing about this car is there's the layout of the cylinders. That's the number 6 is at the front of the motor. Okay, so that's number 6. Number 1 starts at the back of the car, and it's like some aircraft engines. It's very important that you get a dial gauge indicator, which I bought just for this, and you get this to top dead center, absolute top dead center, number 6. And I think it might mention it here. Yeah, check that number, exactly top dead center. On the compression stroke, that is the distributor opposite, you know, all this stuff. I don't want to, I'm sure I'm in copyright trouble now, but it's okay. Now, there's a tool that, and a notch in the camshaft to get this to 90 degrees. Mine were off about 10 or 15 degrees. Both the intake and exhaust were off. I don't know how it happened. I talked to Doc about it. He said it might have been up in the mountains somewhere, and they were trying to get the timing to work for less oxygen. That's about all we could figure. But once you get the cams out, you get all this stuff off. I think I might have been able to do this in the car. Now most of the bolts on this car are wired. You don't have to have that little tool that twists the wires like aircraft. Once again, like an aircraft engine. I got these back. I left the engine alone. Had to take the timing chains off. There's a tensioner in the middle front, right behind the EGR thing. I'll try to remember to show you that. And you get the tension off the chains. You don't move anything. And then you take the gears off, and the camshaft is there. So the gear shafts are laying on a table beside you, and you got this thing. I actually I'll confess, there's no other way I could think to do it. This does not have the little flats on it where you can put a wrench on it and turn it. So I very carefully, with a cloth underneath it, put a big pair of vice grips on it and brought these camshafts to bear up to 90 degrees, locked them in place, put the gears back on it, put the chain back on it, and I was perfectly timed. So it was astounding. So I'll go into all the other stuff I did, but this was one of the last things I did, and I got in it and turned the key, cranked right up. This was the worst cold starting car. I don't know how much starting fluid I've used. It was just no fun at all. I had no fun with this car until I did this. Since I did this, it runs like a Jaguar. It's got and adjusting the valves, I'll go into that on another section. This was the key to the entire car running badly. That right there. Doc was astounded. This is the diagram of the front of the motor where I was talking about with adjusting the cams. This is the EGR system, such as it is. And if there's an old wheeler dealer where they bought a Jaguar sedan with a 3.8 in it, I think, and there's a screen in here. There's a wire mesh screen, and that screen was clogged and it was all messy down the pipe. And it basically has a catch bottle like they use on modern cars, and it was clogged up and causing the engine to leak oil. They got lucky. So that's the engine breather right here. Now behind this is the previously spoken of adjuster for the chains, the timing chains. And I pulled the whole front of the motor off and did all that. I've redone all of that stuff. And so I wanted to mention that. I'm not going to take all this stuff apart and show you, so I'm going to just show you the diagrams. Now, other important things about this car is the flywheel is balanced. You'll see you're supposed to balance the pressure plate and the flywheel, and it should have a B and a B. Now, another interesting thing I don't want to forget about these cars, or this car, was when I went into the gearbox and the motor and the axle and everything, way down deep in the bowels of everything that's mechanical, there are initials. Mine are JB. I don't know who JB was at the factory, but they're so proud of making these cars that they actually initial them. And I would love to know who JB was, but anyway, I'm sure he's long gone. But anyhow, very interesting stuff. That's kind of a hard thing to achieve, but that's if you're going 150. Now there are red top. That's what I have. I have a 9-to-1 compression, and they have I think it's a yellow. No, there's a red. I don't know. There's something. I don't know. I forget. But you've got to know what you've got here to set your timing. Timing kind of matters. This is the front of the motor, and there's your little timing marks on there. You got to get that right. Interesting thing about the oil filter that most of us British guys don't run into is that this thing comes out sideways. I'll try to remember. Let me make a note about that. I think I showed that. Let's see, oil filter. Now, I try to get the felt ones and all that other stuff. This is a real leak point here. It's not too terrible, but it's kind of terrible. This hose is kind of terrible. This right here is a drain plug, and your pressures all go through here. See, number 20, drain plug. So for a couple, I wouldn't do it for more than one. I change it every time I change the oil, but this is an interesting head. But there's a little copper washer. So a lot of guys, they drain the oil, and they don't take any of this apart, and they just drain the oil filter. Thing holds a lot of oil, like 9 quarts or something. And there's a big egg crate down in the bottom of the oil sump to keep it from sloshing around. And just trust me on that. I'm gonna try to keep this thing relatively short, but I want to explain some real odd points on this thing. There's us, TR4 guys and Spitfire guys don't get to see. Very lucky. Here's the front of the motor showing the timing those cam gears right here, and the chains, plural. And there's I've changed all those little feet in here and everything. Now I found an interesting oil leak on this. The oil leak was over here on the front right, looking at it left from the front of the car, but it's the right side. Oil was coming out over here, and it ended up that it was coming around a screw and coming up the top of the screw. Kind of hard to describe, not a good picture to show it. And there's your little common little timing chain tensioner thing there. But, there's all the complexity of this stuff. Here is at least a picture of the tool I'm about to show you doing the cam timing. Now, this is the top dead center mark on the left-hand side of the engine, the transmission. I can't show it to you, but there are marks on mine. It's at 6 o'clock position at the bottom of the car underneath the gearbox. So if you take your flywheel off, you got to put it back on the exact same way to get your timing marks. And that's an interesting little thing there. And there's that rear motor mount. I'll try to remember to show you that. And then the torsion bar reaction plate. Yeah, she has torsion bars, and it's a very difficult thing to deal with. Not too difficult, but you got to let the wheels hang down so far when it's on a jack, and then put your torsion bars in, and then let it down and measure the height and go from there. It's not too bad. A lot of cars use torsion bar. I think Mopar cars did a lot of that. There's the dipstick, and right there it says, wait a minute. I know I'll show you that. And there's the position of the oil filter here. And you can almost see the little egg crates down here too, that keep the oil from sloshing about. Now also, in case I forget, it had a mechanical oil pressure sender. I ain't too keen on those, especially one from 1967. So that's why when you look at my dash, you'll see that green faced indicator instrument, and that's the mechanical oil pressure. It's just too valuable not to know exactly what you got. The RPM counter is on the back of the cam, one of the cams. It's just so different and fun to work with. Unbelievable technology for this era. It is essential to complete that it should be rebalanced. So this is the way they balance the flywheel and pressure plate. And put it on a rod, just like you true a wheel on a bicycle. Boy, I've been there. And that's the way they balance that. So you don't have to go to a shop and get it done. You can do it yourself. But that's the way they did it back then. When I first got this car, the horn didn't blow, and I didn't know why. It took me 8 hours to figure out what it was. So it does have an adjustable wheel. I'll try to remember to show you that. The wheel is not only adjustable this way, it goes up and down. It has a, I don't know if it's on this diagram, but it has a little 7/16 screw that goes in, and you can make it go up and down too. So out of all this diagram, the reason the horn didn't blow was this right here, number 18 spring, and you see 17 contact nipple. Because it's an adjustable wheel, it has this long rod horn switch contact pin. And when I got the steering wheel off, got all this stuff out, pulled this out, that spring, number 18, not that one, not 14, that's a different spring. That one was okay. But this one right here was broken, so it wasn't making earth contact. And I went in the house, and I found an old pin, old clicky, big pin or something, I don't remember. And that spring, and I had to cut it a little bit, and it worked perfectly. And see, that's the little rotor assembly there. And horn blew fine. All because of a pin, a spring no bigger. It's always like that. It's nothing remarkable. And I remember I changed that U-joint too. It was a little sloppy. And so those, at that time, those weren't hard to find. But very interesting assembly. Now the Austin Healey has an adjustable wheel, but it only adjusts this way. But it doesn't have this arrangement. The wires actually go through the tube on the Austin Healey. A little different setup, does the same thing. And fun. I mean, I got to tell you, I just had so much fun on this car, but that's all it was. Luckily, that little pin was in there, but the spring was just mashed to pieces. The suspension is interesting in that when I tried to find them, you don't get new upper ball joints in the front. You get a kit. You rebuild them. They're built into the arm. So I went ahead and did it. The car doesn't have many miles on it, but they had a little tiny clicky in it, and so anyway, that's what you got to do here. You get a rebuild kit. You don't get. Oh, I remember when I rebuilt this, and when I got the clutch and pressure plate, I was talking to Vicky up at Terry's Jaguar, and she said, you got the last clutch and pressure plate and pilot bearing kit thing. She said it takes them months and months to get those, so I got pretty lucky on that. But yeah, I don't know if Vicky's still there at Terry's Jag, but boy, she is a knowledgeable woman on Jaguars, let me tell you. Fun to talk to. In order to service the axle, the rear axle, you just take the cage out. It's actually it comes out pretty quickly. It's amazing. There was a little dent right here on mine where somebody had put a tow chain on it or something. But you basically just take off the brake hydraulic line. You take off the emergency brake cable. You take off the propeller shaft, and you take off the 8 bolts that hold the rubber bushings in, and you drop the entire cage. Took this to an axle guy. He said there was nothing wrong with it. It has a lot of bearings in it, and I found there were 4 kind of growly bearings in it, but you just trust yourself is what I'm trying to say here. But whenever I took this all apart, and they have also, there's the little bushing that holds it into place, one of them. Now, if you want to change the emergency brake pads, one of the reasons this car was so popular to part out was because you see there's no brake rotors here. They're right next to the hog head. There's one right there. And you can cut these to fit just about any car you want them to fit. And that's a shame, but a lot of people parted the heck out of these. If you ever put this bushing right here in, this is what bolts to the body of the car. You have to turn it the right way. There are 4 shocks in the back, 2 on each side. And this is interesting. If you want to do some work on this, you got to take it apart. You can't. Some of the bolts are there, but you can't get to them. And it's just it's fun. I'll try to crawl under and show you what I did to a certain degree. But if the emergency brake pads go, and mine were shot, I think that they were dragging in some way. They were maladjusted, and you got to take the whole back of the car out of it to get to the little tiny pads. And then there are the larger pads, of course, for the disc, and they are right next to the hog head, and they're kind of hard to bleed and hard to deal with. But it's Jaguar. But interesting times there. The brake calipers, you just change out the little disc right here. You don't change the whole caliper. That's the caliper bracket. That's always stays with it. So this is you just change these little pucks right here, basically, if you can still find them. I think I found some at TRW or something. But there they are in place, and they're, of course, wired in bolts. And there they are, but they're wired in. So you just change there's 2 on each side, and it's a relatively simple thing to do. Remember, this is a race car. It's designed to be worked on. Oops, got copyright struck the other day, so I won't have that happen again. I had the radio on. So I drew this diagram on November 16th, or 15 November 2016, and Buddy Holly, of course. And this is the thing that makes the dash light work, the little red ignition thing. So this car had an alternator in it from the factory, and that's kind of a rare thing back then in '67. That's when they were starting to come around. But if you wanted to see it, that's the way that works. You got to have this control box. So there you go. I drew that out because this is the diagram. It's not too bad. I've seen worse. But I just thought I would clean it up a little bit, just make it easier for people to do it. I think I've made a diagram on, but it's on my Odysee channel. Remember my YouTube got hacked, and YouTube. If you don't know this, I had thousands of subscribers, and they all got hacked and lost. But if you don't have any subscribers, then YouTube won't talk to you. So I didn't have any, so they wouldn't talk to me. Although I had thousands. But if you lose them, you can't talk to them. You have to have 1,000 subscribers for them to even talk to you. Now I went in. You can go into settings, and I went on X and tried to talk to them and stuff like that. But they just said, "Forget it. We're not going to do it." Basically, in a semi-polite way. This is the special tuning part, and it's not like Terra 4s or 3s or nothing. But you cut this little hole right here in the bonnet, and you just do a couple of make a little rear air scoop thing to help cool up. There's your brake diagram there. The exhaust system is designed to come out very quickly, so you can change the differential. I forgot about talking about taking the exhaust out when I'm not taking the axle out. But you make these little air scoops, and it's to cool up. There's the hog head, and there are the brakes right here, right next to the hog head. So that just gets some air to the rear brakes, and then that's it. There's not much else there. I was going to look up body, because I was going to talk about the door striker and the other door parts. I'll do that when I'm down there. I don't need to walk you through the book here, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm having a blast doing it too. Interesting fact here. Now this is from this book. If I'm going to get in copyright trouble, I might as well do the whole thing here. So it's real reflective. There it is. And there the build on these things. Okay. Well, mine is a 64. So there were 53 home sales, convertibles, fixed head coupes, 108, and those were English cars. So there were 357 for export, and there were 358 fixed head, so no 2+2s back then, it looks like. Look at this, 1965, they made 1 2+2. In 1975, they made 4. They actually made a total of 6 cars in 1975. EPA was killing them, I'm sure. So 71, was that when? I don't know. They had a fire there or something. At one point, I remember seeing that on something. But there aren't many of these bad little cars out there, and a lot of them have been lost. I've seen multiple stories where they pick them up with forklifts and throw them on the back of the bed and part them out. So that's just what they do, and they got chopped up for, like we said earlier, just for the axles on kit cars. Imagine you could have an E-type Jaguar or a fake AC Cobra. I think I'll go with the E-type Jag, but everybody's different, or whatever they did it on. So don't have many of them. I don't want to forget that mine is an S1, so it has the toggle switches and not the rocker switches. The rocker switches were, I had to deal with those on some other cars I had, and boy, those things they just fall apart in your hands. Oh, there they were. Well, that's okay. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean. And there's the little fan blade. We'll talk. I'll go up in the attic and show you that. But yeah, I didn't think much of them rocker switches. There they are. Now those are toggles. Okay, cool. That's a real early one there because it still has that metal plate on it. But the later ones had, there they are right there, that big long series of toggle switches, which we will avoid. I love the way they had to do if you have to have a front tag, that they have to basically get a sticker and stick it on there. Some of these, the 4.2, that's not a bad looking car. Is that what Twiggy drove in the Blues Brothers, I think? She had an E-type. There they are. They're devils. But there's the tool kit. I've only seen a couple of those. I actually don't have that. And so that's a later one because it's got the knockoff for when they, you know why they took the ears off the wheel holes? It was because there was, I think this is true, there was a parade and a girl was sitting on the back of a MGB or something, and she had a long scarf on. It got caught in the ears of the knockoff, and I killed her. I broke her neck. So that's I've heard that story. I don't know if it's true or not. But and the rocker switches were put in case you ended up with your face over there or something. Like, it's sort of like that Bill Cosby thing. Well, did you find his underwear and was it clean? Well, yeah, we found them in the glove compartment, but they were clean. Don't worry, Mom. Here's the radiator and cooling fan setup. That little motor, right, number 18 here, that's like a wiper motor for TR3 or 4 or something. It's just a little Lucas motor that spins that anemic little blade. It's just like a BB bat. It's crazy. And I had to rebuild the shroud number 21 there. But that motor is just basically useless. Jay Leno, if you want to look that up, he found one of these a couple of years ago that was almost pristine. And he commented on how horrible that cooling fan was. So I put a spell fan on the front of it, pushed it in, and that I never even had any trouble with it overheating. But there's no sense in risking it, and you got to seal up all around the body thing, like I talked about the other day too. But we'll look at that up in the attic. It's up in. I think I painted that fan tarantula green. Just mess around one day. Not going to use it for sure. You for sure want to get hold of this one here, this book here. This has every part of the car and describes them perfectly. So this is so helpful. It covers every little thing. And there was the differential. I did the gearbox. Each one of the needle bearings in the gearbox assemblies are they're not in a cage. You have to put them in one at a time. You have to count them, like 136 and 142 or something like that. And yeah, the throttle system on this thing's crazy. I mean, real crazy. You get some wear on these parts, but it works pretty good. We're not going to be jerking that out of there and putting a cable in it like I did on the Spitfire. I can tell you that. There's the old triple carbs there, HS4s or 6s, I think. So they're 2-inch. There's 3 2-inch carburetors on it. So how helpful this is. And oil pump assembly. There's the oil filter again. But this goes into such great detail. But you can tell right here, like I said earlier, each camshaft, exhaust on the exhaust side, intake on the intake side, of course. She's an 8-cylinder. She's 6-cylinder. She'll take 6. There's the rev counter there. But they do have shell bearings on the cams. A lot of cars don't do that anymore. I think Mick's LS400, 97 LS400 Lexus has 4 camshafts. And it ain't got no bearings up there. But I guess it's okay. But I changed those bearings a long time ago on mine. And they weren't expensive. So might as well do it. And of course they spin at half speed. They don't spin so fast. But since she had the camshafts out, trying to figure out what the heck was wrong with it, I'm going to look and see if Doc's is still around. So thanks to the Lost Wrench Garage for bringing this to mind. He made a nice comment, and it just sort of sent me into a tizzy. I looked up Doc's Jaguar, and he's apparently not there anymore. I guess he retired. So I was thinking of contacting him, but he's not. His web presence is 0 now. So let's have an egg sandwich, I guess. Well, they said don't worry about Johnson grass. I think we need to start worrying about Johnson grass. That's pretty. Oh, it's fogging over because it's been inside. I'll have to. Oh, I forgot to put it in a plastic bag on the porch and let that thing acclimate so the lens wouldn't fog over. Okay, well here's our list. Okay, ooh, looks like an old, looks like Lucky Lady with Liza Minnelli and the guy with the big brain in that dumb movie, and Burt Reynolds or something like that. What, the Lucky Lady? I remember that movie. What a loser. Robbie Benson. Wow! Look at that. Whew. Okay, they said don't worry about it, and everybody else says worry about it. Well, before the county messed everything up, I was going to call this Wind Haven Farms. See that piece of glass right there? It's Wind Haven Farms. See the broken glass? It took one of my windows and threw it over and busted it to pieces. Oh well. That one was broken already anyway, so okay. Ugh. What a place. I love every second. I'm going to rifle through this as quickly as I can because we've done a bunch of stuff, but I just want to make a record of this. Ugh. Let's see, what's the first thing? Air intake. You see that funky little thing right there? Let me give you some perspective. When I got this car, that wasn't there. It had been stolen. And I couldn't figure out how fumes were getting in the car. Well, here's the air intake for the heater. No air conditioning here. So there was nothing there. You have to have this little rubber little deal here, and it rests onto here, and it brings fresh air from the front of the bonnet into here and into the car. So this will just pulling stuff in from there. So no good. All right, air intake covered. All right, so when I got this car, let's see, this, I disconnect it every single time because of the clock. So I'm gonna hook it up. So just get a plain battery for these things anymore, okay? So over here, so when I got this car, the ignition light didn't work. I know that seemed small, but it's because of that control box. And let's let the door down. There are the other things. So if you want your, in 1967, you had an alternator. I think we're going to talk about that later, but I don't know. The original sticker on the speedometer. Well, you need the right keys. Okay, so let's turn the light off, and you'll hear the fuel pump kick in. Is it that one? It is that one. So right here is the ignition. This is the low fuel. We'll talk about that later. And there's the high beams. See that red light coming on? Oh, let's lose that red light. That red light. That took some doing. So if you want to turn the headlights on, you go here, and then you want to turn the high beams on, you go there, and then there is your high beam headlamps. It's in red. Okay. All right. That's part of that. Okay. I'm going to talk about this a little bit. Oh, there's the, I'll try to remember everything. You see right here, that's the switch I added in for the electric fan because the other fan's so anemic. And there you can plug in your iPod back in the day. But right here is that little bolt. And you can move the steering wheel up and down. Now right here, you can turn that little device there, and you can move the steering wheel. See, it works great. You can move the steering wheel. There we go. Okay. You can move the steering wheel up and back. All right. So, and then you, just like the Healy, and we're going to talk about the 8 hours spent on the horn. All right. So, you see that little thing right here and here? I'm not going to take those out. Okay, you take that, and this whole panel will fall down. You got to take this out, the cigar lighter, and that's where your fuse boxes are. But what that does is there's some wires that go back there, and they will earth out on you or short, and then you have a fire. Now, I don't think you can hear it, but the clock is running. I talked about that battery thing. I sent that clock off, had it built. Finally had a guy who did it right. It's running fine. So it's 8 minutes to 5 per that. There's the Becker Europa radio with the Becker speakers here. And there's an auxiliary amplifier back over there. It's a very interesting car. There's your choke is over here because this is supposed to be a right-hand drive car. And then your heat controls are here. And you can turn the air on, off, whatever you want to do. And this controls the water valve. And under here, because this is like a 300 SL Mercedes 55 Gullwing, somewhere under here, there is a, I don't know, I don't know. There's air vents. And there's one over here. Oh. So there's one over here too. So there are these air vents that come down, and the air comes in. You get fresh air, such as it is. And so there's that. I don't know where I am on the list. There's the nice little ball there. Okay, and I'm going to crank it up before we go. And like I said earlier, original Smith's water temp. I want a mechanical oil pressure gauge. The fuel gauge in this thing is so flippin' accurate. It's amazing. There's your amperes. And if you get low fuel, that light will come on. I have never seen a vehicle of this vintage with the most accurate fuel system ever. Alright, let's see. I did the ignition light. Oh, if you're going to buy one of these, kind of a buyer's guide, let's throw the keys right there. The battery is here, right behind the left front wheel. If you were unlucky enough to have acid come out, it will rot that panel right there. Trust me on that. I've seen it a couple of times. Luckily, I don't have that. So, there you go. Oh, let's just keep going. Battery wire ground, and oh yeah, I talked about that. Starter. So if you want to put a starter in one of these, look at all the rainwater that came in here. If you want to put a starter in one of these, you might have to drop the engine down. Now I have a gear reduction starter. It's right here, and that's that. So okay, up there was I was talking about earlier. That silly fan, and there's a spell fan up there now. Well, let's talk about the bonnet. The bonnet will come right off. It's very easy to do. There's a bolt here, and there's a bolt there. I'm not going to do too much about that. And let me get my lariat on. Cotswold blue, and I wrapped it with silver. I kind of want silver. And up here, you'll see there's a plug right here. There's a plug right there. You just unplug the bonnet, take a couple of bolts off, and the whole front end comes off. Fascinating. There's the double cam thing. Alright, so talk about the starter. I rebuilt the carb several times because I didn't know what was wrong. The ignition system in this, it's a points ignition. Oh, I was going to go back there and talk about that. It ain't going to start if you got the kick down to other voltage. Let's talk about valve adjustment. Oh my gosh, just look that up yourself. Man, let me tell you, you have to measure it, take the camshaft out, measure the pills, and then you have to get your micrometer and all of that stuff. I think it's there it is up there. Oh, Oh, let me get that out of there. The Archer kit. So you have to have, if you're going to adjust the valves, even like on a Lexus or anything. Oh, I got so many things out. You have to have this. And you have to have these pills. And you have to measure what you have. See where the cam wore into that one? You have to know what you have. If it's 6 thousandths on exhaust, 4 on intake on the cam lobes, and then you have to compensate with these little pills. But you can't put these pills in until you take the camshaft out. So let that be a lesson to you. Love every second. So let's go over here. So when I got this car, that's a later Jaguar thing. Oh, excuse me. Oh, modern Jaguar. Okay. So when I got this car, I thought it could have been the ignition system. So in here is a Fireball Crane HI6. And there's the old distributor. I believe that's a Mallory. And there's the big old coil. The big old Fireball coil. I tried all that. It didn't work. Didn't even come close. So I struggled for 10 years trying to figure out what was wrong with this car. Now, like I said earlier, it was the cam thing. All right. So where are we now? Oh, let's see. Oh, fuel. Yeah, holds fuel. Yeah. Oh, the drain thing. This car is so fascinating. The fuel level is just amazing. But you see that little thing, that gold thing hanging down right there? That's where the fuel pickup is in a screen. And you can drain that thing real easily. I'm not going to crawl in this water and show you the brakes. You can look it up somewhere else. So, amazing stuff. Now, when I got this car, it sat for 20 years. And I couldn't get the right-hand door to close. Let's just start the easy way. This is an S1. You see that striker? How beautiful that is, chromed and everything. So I worked real hard on this car. And I'm pretty good with body stuff. I know, it's a dusty mess. Old Dusty. All right, so here is this striker. Now, this door had sat so long in the desert that the grease was hard. And there's a plate back up in there that floats, and those were stripped out. Oh, those were fun days. So there's the striker, but that's not the one that was in it. This is out of a striker was I don't know what that symbol means on my screen. Could be just that it's hot. So this was the one that was on it. This is out of a 1.5, not a 1. So it would latch, kind of. I talked to Vicky, and they had one right-hand door striker left. And so now you end up with that. So I'm very pleased with that. Now, if you want to dislatch this, you have to pull. There's a little pole right there. There it is, right there. Pull that out, and for some reason, it has a safety on it. I don't know what that's about. All right, and then your fuel pump's back here. Your gas filler's here. You pull this out, you can let this down and all that stuff. So in here is E-Jag. I never knew what that was. The story was this was Arnold Palmer's brother's car or something. I don't know if that's true or not. So this is the cam tool that Buddy Holly was here. So when you get the top dead center, number 6, the leading piston up exactly. You use this on the camshafts, and you use that keyway. And you know when you're on compression stroke, because if it was off, that would be 180 degrees out. So there you go. This is the tool you use to, or I made, that you use to lessen the tension on the timing gears, the timing chain, sorry. So I made that a long time ago, and there's just a bunch of other stuff in here. I might go through there and see if I want to use that somewhere else. So just, there's your spare tire. I powder coated these wheels, new tires. I powder coated right there. That's powder coat inside of the Jaguar with a spider egg on it. And spider pig. Okay, so no more. So I did all that. It looks like a ruby, kind of pretty, huh? So I did all that. So I never leave this up because I'm afraid it might fall and break the glass. Oh. Okay, it is an E-type Jaguar 4.2. Okay, let's see what I did here. Door latches with the old grease. It was funny. I struggled getting that door open for a good while, and all it was, you just had to pull on it because the grease was hard. So I went to the trunk, axle cage. You saw that. Odometer. This car did not have overdrive because it was considered not to be needed. The adjustable steering wheel, the radio, show cam tool. Oh, torsion bar. Well, yeah, this car has torsion bars, and you see there's no springs there, and there's those bars. It's a dark and stormy night. I've just been cutting a bunch of grass. Let's see, torsion things, bonnet plug, ball joints, brake calipers are so interesting. You don't change the bracket, you just change the little pucks. That bracket right there stays there, you just change these little pucks. Fascinating stuff. Alright, let's see, rear brake. Well, if you want to change your e-brake pads, you got to pull the whole axle out. Might have mentioned that. Oh, you got timing mark on the bottom of the flywheel. I think I mentioned that. Well, the oil filter is over here. Ooh, stormy. I better go in and do something else. But the oil filter is underneath here. See that little blue tube? That's where that is. That's where the... Now, I buffed these things and I powder coated them in clear. Interesting stuff. Okay, and your number plate's going to be right there. So many things. What a complicated car. And, got the battery connected. I need to disconnect trim. Hand button, fly. Oh yeah, so you got to do that on the bottom mark. I better go in. It's just getting too bad. Let me disconnect the battery, and we'll go in and we'll finish this up tomorrow. Just sort of a little walkthrough. What's the bright light? Always sharpen both sides of your pencil. I didn't have time for that. Okay, battery disconnected. All right, we're just going to leave this here. Put it there. Oh, yeah. Hot engine. Wait a minute. Cool stuff. Enamel coated. Ooh. Exhaust manifold. Alternator. Oh, okay, gotta go. Wow. It's a lightning Rama out there. Well, I know you'll be happy to know that I made it in. And just part of it. Let's keep that up there. See? Just in time. Got to see a little lightning. Oh, how much has it rained? It has rained 1.09 inches. So that's about 4:30. Oh, I need to set the timer because I got water going in the pond. Okay, I'm not driving. Oh, there it was, just in time. Not again. All right. Timer. Let's make it an hour 9. So I'm trying to fill the pond to get. It's crazy being out there in this stuff, but let me tell you a little story. Libation. If you live around here and you're scared of lightning and thunder like that, you're not going to get much done. But you do need to be very careful. It's lightning like every 15 seconds. You know what heat lightning is, don't you? It's lightning. So, and it can be a clear sky. A lot of people are buried because they were in a clear sky and got hit by lightning. Whoa! I got a lot of the grass cut. Boy, is it wet. But you just got to go out there and do it, or you'll end up with snakes and mice and stuff. Let's get one more bolt. Come on, baby. Give me one more. Well, that wasn't big enough. You can see the shadow of my ceiling fan. The shadow of my ceiling fan. Oh, there was some. All right. So the pond is looking good. It's not leaking. There's a beautiful little sunset over there. All right, one more time. I don't care how big it is. There it is. All right. Lightning striking again and again. Terrible song. Saw some cloud to ground earlier. All right, that's enough of that. It's been several days, so I sort of lost my place, and I'm not going to review my footage. I'll just sort of do a little quickie here, and we'll move it out because I got to move cars around. There's the original coil off the Jaguar. See, it's got the screw terminal things. There's one right there, and these are fancy things because you take the mud dauber in there or something. You take the wire and you go down and you spread it out. They use solid wire. There's another screw in one right there. So that's the way that was. That coil might still be good, but I don't know. Got plenty of them. So anyway, let's see. You notice this car has 3 wipers, and that's because it's a squat shield. I had a 76 midget same way. A lot of British cars have 3 wipers because their windshields are not very tall, but they're pretty wide. I think I talked about this being missing and letting fumes in the car. That's probably about it. Let's see, and my notes are so bad. Not going to put this car on the lift. All right, that's enough. Let's crank her up and we'll move her over to the other side. I think I talked about the horn. Yeah, I talked about that on the diagrams. That's one of the first things I did was that 8-hour horn project. But anyway, it's supposed to have a horn, so have it. Now remember, this car is wrapped. It's Cotswold blue, which was kind of a rare color in '67. They used it on a lot of earlier cars. So anyway, there she is. It's a gold top. Oh yeah, I was going to go over here. I have That's not the original head for this car. The original head is over here. Meant to do that. At least now I know where that is. Okay, so there's my brake bleeder. So here's a head for it. And they're interesting in that they are hemispherical. I'm going to let you just sort of look under. You can see right there. Okay, my camera's turning off for some reason. But anyway, let's see. This head was a little better. I don't know what happened. I can edit it if I have to. Remember that there are oilers back here, this little hose right here, and that red thing, that's what oils the camshafts. On the original motor, those are hard lines, and they will certainly crack on you, and you'll get a weird oil leak, and you won't know why sometimes on these cars. And so that's part of it. This was originally Cotswold blue, very rare color for 1967, I understand. I wrapped it badly, but it's wrapped, and that's why I don't care about how dirty it gets, because it's vinyl, just like that car there is wrapped, so it's okay. So let's go over here. There's a big vacuum brakes, vacuum assist brakes. There's a you still recording? Okay. There's a regulator thing right here, and that big bulb down there is the vacuum chamber. Need to test that and make sure it's not leaking. You'll notice that there are lines like that one down there going right into the bulkhead. And what those are, there's a vacuum line down there, and there's water cooler lines there. And they go inside this cowling. This is hollow. So if you want to change those 3 pipes like I did, you have to do it through the dashboard. Not easy to do. And so it's okay. It's not a terrible job. And I'm not going to take the dash apart and show you that. I did put a fuel cutoff on this. It's a good idea on cars like that to have fuel cutoffs. Carburetors are kind of hard to rebuild. These are the kind that have the choke mechanism down underneath it in the dash pots, and they're problematic at best. And that's about it. Let's crank her up and move her over. I got to do the curly shuffle today. I've got to take Daphne up, do a few things. I'm going to put this car up where the Spitfire is. I'm going to put Spitfire on the lift because I've got some stuff I want to do. I think I'll tighten the intake manifolds on that truck before I do it. Let's move this car now. Okay, the clock is running. I can hear it ticking. That's my switch for the cooling fan there. Right there, I had to dead it out because it's got a light in it. It's kind of bright. So all you do is, this is just a simple turn on. And you listen back there for the clicky clicks. I ran her the other day. Let's just give her the least. See, that's called a jewel. And that comes on there. Just give her the least little bit of choke. Okay. I hear it clicking. I don't like that. Okay. There's the ignition light on. Let's see how long it takes to start her. I always just got to make sure that everything's in neutral. Well, that didn't take long, did it? That's a rarity there. Now, see, that's what I was talking about. So you can reach up there, you can do this, and then you can push this in, and it will latch that down. You cock it over. Okay. There's one over there too. I don't think I need that. Okay. And all right, we're ready to go back. Okay, that's pretty good for a 6-cylinder. Nobody's behind me, are they? Nobody snuck in here. Amazon driver or something. Yeah, there she is. Let's get her over here in case it might decide to leak a little rain on us. Okay. Alright, that's good enough. See, it comes off. bit. And that's all. That's a walkthrough of my life with the Jaguar E-Type. I wish Doc was around. I'd love to talk to him. I appreciate him letting me get this car real cheap, but nobody wanted it. They were parting it out. Nobody cared. So I feel very fortunate that I got hold of it. The air duct, I think I showed you. There are air ducts down here. And that's my plug-in for the thing. It's supposed to have a hazard light here that was required. I hated it. It looked like something that Americans forced on the car, and it was. So that's why Donald Healy got out of the business, because of all the stuff. Oh, there's my little trap door for air, right there. And there's the identical one over here. There it is. All right, and then all that's covered up. Nice little grab handle there. Boy, when I got this thing, this was missing. Took a while to get that. It's been a wonderful journey, and I feel like if it had sat for another year or two, it might not have ever got fixed up. So, give me a thumbs up just for that, and a subscribe. Geez, I might have to get out of it like a chicken. You have to use your elbows to get out of it. Well, she's a mite messy. I don't know what that is. What is, oh, well, that's where that fell off. Oh, that's just where some wrap came off. Okay, well, it's not going to wrapper, huh? Okay, that's it for her. And there she is. And we'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching. I know this, I just chopped it up and just try to give my history and provenance of the things I've done with her. I guess 20 years now, maybe not that long. I've had her. So that's her. Bye-bye. Thanks for spending time with me.